Hello and welcome to the Maple Grove City Report. I'm Dave Kaiser from CCX Media. Thanks for joining us. Joined by Heidi Nelson, Maple Grove City Administrator. Welcome once again.
Thank you.
We are here to talk about the meeting on August 3rd, also a work session that happened before that with a couple very timely topics and also a lot happening in the city. We'll give you that update at the end of the program. Let's begin with the work session, Heidi. And the main topic was the budget.
Yes.
Where are we in the process and what are some of the early numbers looking like?
Yeah, so we started our 2021 budget process internally in May and worked through that through June and July at a staff level, and then brought to the council a preliminary budget this last Monday night. We're sitting at about a 1.92% levy increase and then a 2.39% increase in the budget. Pretty consistent with past years. Our 10-year average is about 2.79% on the levy. So I think, you know, we're right in the ballpark, and we tend to take a pretty conservative approach to budgeting. And this year, I think a lot of concern out there for, you know, what we're experiencing with COVID and business impacts.
Sure.
And so no new positions proposed for this year, pretty flat line approach to the budget. So this will come back in front of the council in September. We have to adopt our preliminary levy by September 30th. The levy can go down from there, can't go up.
Right.
So we have time between September 30th and December when we would have our final budget hearing to work on that. But pretty straightforward budget proposal this year. A couple of things that are kind of nuances to the budget we talked about on Monday night is our Emerald Ash Borer program. Unfortunately, the problem has kind of progressed in a number of our neighborhoods, and we have about 7,000 public trees that pretty much reside in our public rights of way and public spaces that we're going to need to deal with. And some of them are further along in their disease progression than others. A couple of neighborhoods that are really being impacted is the Boundary Creek neighborhood up in the northeast corner, and then the neighborhood kind of south of County Road 30, east of Elm Creek Boulevard, the Orange Thompson area. Those two areas are seeing a lot of disease progression. So a lot of cost associated with this, with 7,000 trees, and somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 per tree, depending on, you know, where it is in its disease, to take those down. So the impacts of this could be anywhere from, you know, $7 to $10 million over the next 5 years. So we talked with council about some options to fund that. We're going to be looking at some internal funds to use that versus, you know, putting that on the levy. You know, some of our capital projects that we had in the works, our community center remodel and expansion, that's kind of been put off now into the future, and so we'll reallocate some of those dollars here in the short run to deal with that. Park projects that we had in the works, kind of the revisions out at Gleason Fields, and then some land acquisition for Park Service Area 5, which is kind of up in that 610, 105th area. We wanted to visit with the council about those and get some consensus around whether we want to continue to proceed with those, and the direction was to continue to work on those projects. So that was the budget work session, and again, that'll come back before the council in early September.
All right, and that was actually about as long or longer than the council meeting itself. The council meeting on the 3rd was about 1 hour long, and one item pulled from the consent agenda, and that recognizes someone going off of the Lake Quality Commission. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Dan Voltman has resigned from the Lake Quality Commission. He served for 5 years, so this was pulled by Councilmember Jagger just to recognize his service.
Congratulations, Dan. Thanks for the service. Let's move ahead to special business. And there were a few comments that came in through the open forum, and they tie right into the update on COVID-19 from Chief Bush.
Yes.
So tie all those together for us and some of the comments and thoughts that are around.
Yeah, so we still continue to get a lot of input about, you know, either pro or anti-mask, that kind of a thing, depending on where you sit on that issue. And of course, the governor has made that order now. And so, you know, if you come to the government center, a mask is required. We do provide them there for folks if they come without one. And then any, you know, public spaces that you're in intern buildings, they'd be required. So we're working on that, and we've had to adjust our policies, of course, for our staff dealing with that governor's order. And then there was a question asked about, you know, data specific to COVID cases in Maple Grove, and we really don't have that level of specific data. We get data from the Minnesota Department of Health and Hennepin County Health Department, which is really kind of aggregated at a county level. We do get some data about cases in our congregate care facilities, so senior facilities, but that's really more for our public safety folks, and it's not something that we would publicize. You know, the Department of Health has some information on their websites about that, but so we did have some questions about, you know, can there be data available about Maple Grove specific, but it's really kind of aggregated at a county level, and that's the data that we rely on.
And any points from Chief Bush's update that are important to the council or staff at this point? I know there's a lot of information presented each time.
Yeah, and Chief Bush does a great job of just kind of monitoring the numbers and tracking the data in terms of, there's this discussion, are we in a second wave of the virus?
Right.
But when you look back over time, there was a period of time in probably late April, early May, where we weren't doing a lot of testing because of the availability of testing, and so there was this sort of dip in case count. But so there's kind of this notion that it was probably maybe at the same level all along. Are we really trending up? So I think we just continue to monitor those numbers and monitor, both the case numbers and the death numbers and see where we're at and then what the state directions are.
We will keep bringing you those updates as we recap the council meetings in the future. Let's move ahead to a couple public hearings. First public hearing related to territorial greens. We've talked about this quite a bit. What stage are we in now with territorial greens?
Yeah, so this was a public hearing ordering the plans and specifications and advertising for bids for the public improvements associated with this project itself. So sewer, water, storm improvements, as well as those road improvements right adjacent to the development. Earlier in the agenda, on the consent agenda, there was an ordering of a feasibility study for the improvements out at Territorial and Fernbrook Road. And as you recall, we're looking at kind of a mini roundabout solution out there with the county. So 2 steps on this project, and we continue to move forward. So that'll eventually come back to council about those improvements out at Territorial and Fernbrook.
Few other public hearings on the 3rd relating to easement vacations, and something that happens on a regular basis in the city. Tell us those areas.
Yeah, so we had another one out at 101 and Bass Lake Road.
Right.
A lot of cleanup out there as that land kind of gets resituated and moves forward for development. So this one is at the northwest corner, kind of between Lord of Life and the New Havenwood Senior Housing Project, and then a lot split out at Appaloosa Woods. So kind of vacation, and then they'll redo some easements for utilities out there.
Good. Hopping over to community development, a few updates there. One related to a garage, and this is something that was a specific home, but led to a little bit bigger discussion. Tell us about the garage and then the garage discussion that may continue on.
Yeah, so this was a variance to add a second stall of a garage at 6240 Larch Lane North, and so part of this discussion was, should we create some more flexibility for garage size in our neighborhoods? And so I think there'll be an opportunity for staff to go back and look at the code on that one. The other one was for a porch in a area along Eagle Lake on Magda Drive, and those lots tend to be pretty shallow there, and the ordinary high water mark for Eagle comes way back in, and so we've done a couple things back in there and giving some property owners some flexibility there where things are a little bit limited. So
very good. Updates from community development, some things coming up in the future, and one is maybe a little closer look on some signs out in the community because of COVID. Give us a little background here and what might be happening.
Yeah, so we, during kind of the shutdown period, early shutdown period with COVID, we were being pretty flexible with business owners in terms of, signage, needing to get the message out as to, whether they were doing drive-through or takeout or curbside and where that was occurring. We knew that we needed to give folks some flexibility, and now I think we're kind of asking, can you, we want to pull it back a little bit and just make sure we're attending to kind of the aesthetics of the community. So you can see us out there doing some enforcement and working with businesses on that.
Very good. Another item that was mentioned is the kickoff to the housing study, and this again pulls back to the moratorium that is in place. So remind us again of the moratorium and then this step in the process.
Yeah, so the moratorium will be in place till about next spring. It can always be ended early, but it's a year when we took action on that. So during this period of the moratorium, and this is really for multifamily apartment type housing, and so we'll be taking a look at kind of studying the housing market and getting a better understanding of what that market is in Maple Grove. So a housing study was authorized at the meeting, I think at the second meeting in July, and so we had a kickoff meeting yesterday. We're working with a company called Maxfield. They do a lot of housing studies in the metro area. So this will come back to the council over the next couple months. We anticipate this process to take 2 to 3 months or so you can look for some reports coming forward.
Very good. We'll bring you those updates. Let's move on to Public Works and Engineering, and the talk is, of course, I-94.
Yeah.
How are we doing at I-94? What do residents need to watch out for in the coming weeks?
Yeah, so Maple Grove Parkway on the eastbound lanes are reopened, so that's nice to see. Nice new concrete drive lanes, so that's good. But we're going to have Weaver closing down here tomorrow. We're taping this on Wednesday the 5th. That's going to be on August 6th, and of course, a lot of residential areas to the west of that Weaver Lake entrance ramps to 94, so we know that's going to be impactful. So Hemlock is an option, taking taking Weaver over to Elm Creek and heading south. So unfortunately, I think a lot of folks are still working remotely, so we know traffic is a little bit lighter than it could be right now, so hopefully this won't be too much of an inconvenience. About a month time period though that Weaver Lake, those eastbound ramps will be closed.
All right, and again, information about that project always available on the city's website. Let's talk about noise walls. That was part of the discussion early on in the process.
Yep.
We're getting close to some going up.
We are, and they'll start kind of on the west side of the freeway because they're working on those eastbound lanes, so on the further to the west of that, and kind of working north to south. So they're going to pick up where those wood walls leave off with the 494 project. They'll pick up there and extend north, and then they'll transition to the new format of walls, which is more of a concrete structure wall. And we went through a process to determine kind of the look of those. So they'll be working on that west side, and then of course next year when they flip and work on the westbound lanes, then they'll be working on the east side of the interstate there on those walls.
All right, the key to drive safely as you're out in that area. A few things looking ahead on transportation issues, one with the Met Council and one again at I believe a state and a national level. Tell us about those two.
Yeah, so we submitted for the regional solicitation, so these are federal dollars that come down to Met Council for transportation improvements for the 169 Elm Creek Boulevard Bridge there, so redoing that interchange. So we're going to be seeking funding from a number of different programs on that interstate project. So we'll see where that comes in. I think the awards for that are later this fall or into the early winter. So, but good news, Ken Ashfeld, our Public Works Director, City Engineer, sits on the review committee for those. And then our mayor, Mark Stephenson, is on the Transportation Advisory Board that makes some of those final decisions. So we'll hopefully have some good input into that process. And then just following up on our advocacy calls out to DC on our 610 build grant application. We were able to follow up with a letter from Ryan Companies in support of the project, kind of recognizing the investment that's going on in their project up by the hospital. So good to have that follow up. And again, that award timeline is coming out in the middle of September.
Very good. One question on the 169 and Elm Creek Boulevard. Is that a joint project then with the city of Brooklyn Park as well? I'm not sure where the boundary is there between the two cities. Tell us how that works.
Yeah, we're kind of taking the lead on it. It's probably more impactful for Maple Grove. It's at Brooklyn Park's edge, but it's sort of our entry point into what will be, the Arbor Lakes Business Park and that whole business area there. We'd love to have some participation financially from Brooklyn Park, and we'll get down to those discussions at some point. But at this point, the city of Maple Grove's kind of taken the lead on that project.
Very good. Last bit of the regular council meeting on the 3rd was your update related to some of the things that are coming up, and one is absentee voting and the whole voting and filing process. Give us some of the details. Yeah,
so absentee voting, in-person absentee voting is underway at the Government Center. We're doing that in our council chambers to give us enough space to accommodate traffic in and out, so that'll be there through next Monday, August 10th, and then of course the primary election is on Tuesday, August 11th. All of our polls will be open on Tuesday, August 11th for that in-person voting. City Council seats, we have 2 City Council seats up for election this year. The filing period opened on July 28th. It'll close on August 11th, and then of course those names will appear on the general election ballot, and absentee starts for that already on September 18th, so we're going to be moving right along here with the election process.
And am I correct to say that it's important to note that candidate filing is done in person at the Government Center? So if someone's interested, they have to come to the Government Center.
You do, because you have to fill out kind of an affidavit and has to be notarized and that kind of a thing, and produce some information. So yeah, all the information about how to file for office is available on our website, but it is an in-person activity. We do it. I know they've been handling some of them down in the chambers now that all of our staff is kind of down there doing absentee, but we also have a space up on the 2nd floor that has all the plexiglass in place and whatnot to make sure it's a good environment.
Excellent. And one note, we had been kind of hanging on to hope that the prayer breakfast would happen on a rescheduled date, but it is not going to happen. Yeah,
I think they just decided to forego trying to plan. As we've said many times, it's really hard to plan anything right now. So rescheduled date was going to be September 22nd, but now we're just going to be looking forward to the spring of 2021.
All right. And then we moved from the council meeting to an EDA meeting with a few topics there, and one was related to Main Street, the corridor. We've talked about this a little bit. Fill us in on a company that you'll be working with to look at that area.
Yeah, so this was an agreement with WSB to do some design out on Main Street. So if you kind of remember what we went through, or what the shops went through, which was a private exercise, to kind of do that design for the redo of their pedestrian mall into, you know, a through street. We're going to be doing some of that kind of same work, really looking at placemaking and what does that street edge want to be and how does the landscape work. So that contract with WSB will take us through that process. A lot of engagement there with the business community. 2/3 of Main Street is owned by one entity. There's the northern end buildings are different ownership, and so we've got to work with not only the business owners but also those property owners and work through that, as well as the broader community, and kind of get their ideas about what do they want to see Main Street look like. We'll be doing a lot of that, unfortunately, virtually in the coming months.
Right.
We were hoping to be able to get out and interact with the community, but we're going to rely on some virtual tools there. So that work will be moving forward here in the coming weeks.
Another note from the EDA meeting was an update on some of the economic work that the city has been doing with some loans. Give us a recap of that, and the second phase of the process is now underway.
Yeah, so we opened up a second kind of local business assistance loan program called the Recovery Loan Fund. The other one was the Emergency Loan Fund, which was kind of when business was reopening. So again, $10,000 forgivable loans available to the business community here in Maple Grove. Online application process. We've received, it's been open, it opened on July 27th, so a little bit over a week. We've gotten about 17 applications so far, and we can probably fund maybe about 21 or 22 businesses.
Okay.
So if you're out there and thinking about it, we'd sure love to hear from you and get this money out the door to the business community. So, and then one other update that Brett had was just some information about the state also had a business assistance program, and about 14 businesses in Maple Grove received some of that money. So that's a great number. We were kind of a leader amongst suburban communities, so we were really happy to see that level of investment.
And just to update folks, there was some activity happening related to businesses, some existing and some still new ones coming to town. Just give us a little idea of some of the businesses that were talked about. Yeah,
so we're continuing to monitor the theater, AMC, to see what their reopening plans are, and then Claddagh remains closed, but we haven't kind of heard the final word on that. We do have a new restaurant coming to Main Street. They're going in the old Pyology space called the Great Greek. It's a national franchise, but this is their first Minnesota location. The Face Foundry, it's a kind of a spa type place that's opening over at the shops. And then F45 Fitness, we talked about a space up at Dunkirk, County Road 30 Dunkirk area. That one's going in the space where Cafe Donuts used to be. So that'll be a new fitness facility up in that area.
And final note from the EDA, just a little update here on the masks situation. So a lot of masks going through the government center recently. Yeah,
so we participated with the Twin West Minneapolis Chamber. They got a distribution from the state of Minnesota on masks to get out to the business community. I think we received 70,000 masks and have been working on getting them out the door. I think as of Monday night, Brett mentioned that we had maybe 15,000 left or something, and I know he's responding to calls and interest from the business community. So if you haven't received any yet, you can just walk into the government center. Our receptionists have a little form to fill out, and then we hand them out. And I think the boxes are of like 50. I think we're doing 50 to 100 masks per business. And really, it's just to help them as they're interfacing with customers to make that easy and kind of take that burden off the business community.
One final note that was given at the end of the meeting by one of the council members is a partnership. I believe it is with Cross. I want to make sure that I've got it right here. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so Cross is doing a backpack drive and school supply drive. Even though school is kind of a little bit of a different form this year, kids still need to probably go there at least a couple days a week is what it's looking like. So they are doing that drive over the next few weeks. On Saturday at the Lookout from 11 to 2, I think there's a few council members that will be participating to pick up those supplies on Saturday from 11 to 2 at the Lookout. So.
All right.
Yep.
That's all from the meeting. It was, again, a busy night at the council chambers. Let's move ahead to some other things happening around the city. We want to keep people updated about the passport process.
Yeah.
What do people need to know about how to handle passports now?
Yeah, so we are open and available for service at the Government Center. We do ask, appointments are required just because we need to make sure the space isn't super big, and so we need to make sure that we're keeping people spaced out there. So you can either go on the website and make an appointment or give us a call. We do know the State Department is processing passports. They're a little bit behind because they were shut down for a little while, but if you're going to need a passport, it's good to get in queue. So give us a call.
Few recruitment efforts going on in the city of Maple Grove. The first is the finance director. Tell us about that process.
Yeah, so we've talked about Steve Hauer's retirement. He's been with the city for 25 years, and so he will be retiring at the end of September. So we're out recruiting for a finance director right now. The information's available on our website, and the position's open till August 16th. So.
And you're looking as well for people who might be interested in becoming a firefighter in Maple Grove.
Yeah, so actually I think these are the recruits graduated.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
No,
so
that's
they're already
okay.
through the process.
We are already through the process.
Fantastic.
So students from the West Suburban Fire Academy, which includes 10 Maple Grove recruits, completed their final day of academy training. And they've been attending that academy since January and graduated this week as qualified and certified Minnesota firefighters. So we really appreciate that investment because it's a lot of time away from their family and a lot of training and education time. I think we just wrapped up a firefighter recruitment in early July.
All right, congratulations.
So those folks will be going through this process then.
The process continues on. Give us an update on the community center and some of the facilities in the city as far as use right now.
Yeah, so our pools and the teen center and the gymnasium are now open to the general public, but there are some restrictions. And then the gym is open on a first-come, first-served basis. But if you want to use the pools or the teen center, you do need to call and reserve or go online and reserve a block of time. We just need to make sure we're controlling kind of the numbers in there. And so, you know, if you want to come to the pool, go in on schedule. We want to come at 1 o'clock and we'll be there till this time. We're trying to make it as easy as we can and pain-free. It's kind of hard right now to be out trying to do stuff, it feels like. So we're really trying to work with folks to make it easy. You can sign up on the city website. And then, of course, we do require masks in the facility, except if you're swimming. So check out the community center website to sign up to come in and use those facilities.
Good. We often bring you updates on the farmers market, and this is an extra exciting time for the farmers market. What is going on there?
So it's National Farmers Market Week from August 2 to the 8th, and this is we're in our 17th outdoor season here with the market starting in 2014. So this is just a great week to celebrate everything about the farmers market, and we'll be there on Thursday from 3 to 7, and that time frame, that schedule will continue through October. We'll brief up the hours later as we get into the fall, but lots of good produce happening out there right now.
All right, let's move ahead. Yoga enthusiasts in the city of Maple Grove, here's something you might be interested in. What have we put together?
Yeah, so we have a free Vinyasa Flow yoga class on Saturdays from 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning, and this is over at Central Park, kind of in the big Great Lawn area. The weekly parks, it doesn't require registration, and they do accept a free will offering. So it's free, but they do accept a donation. So 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. Saturdays through the end of August, through August 29th, and that's a free class, and it's the Vinyasa Flow style class.
All right, so there's some fun to be had outside in Maple Grove. A couple of other areas to have fun outside would be the Weaver Lake Beach.
Yes.
What do we need to know about the timing for the beach?
Yeah, so we'll be open with lifeguards on site through August 15th, so that date's coming up here pretty quick. And we're open Tuesdays through Sundays from noon to 7. The restrooms are open there. No concessions are available there right now, but of course there's lots of other things to enjoy out at Weaver Lake Park.
All right, and plenty of water as well at the splash pad.
Yes.
What's the timing on the splash pad?
Open every day from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Of course, it's free to play in the fountain. We do have staff monitoring the entrance and the exits just because we do have to monitor the numbers of folks in there. And the changing rooms and the restrooms are available in the park building, but again, no concessions. We're not doing concessions right now.
All right, Park and Rec again has been busy with different adaptive ways to deal with COVID-19, and one is having drive-in activities, and one area of that is drive-in movies. What's the next movie coming to town?
So a family favorite movie, the movie Home, which is rated PG, will be shown in the grassy area in front of the Maple Grove Lifetime, so those two outlots there. This one's scheduled for Sunday, August 16th. Parking opens at 7 p.m. and the movie begins at dusk. Admission is $20 per car, and then you can register online through the city website for that.
Great, and seniors as well getting in on the drive-in fun.
Yes.
Drive-in bingo.
Right, so
Right.
the 55 Forward Senior Program offers drive-in bingo, and this is on Wednesday, August 12th at 9:30 a.m. It's free to play, but registration in advance is required. And so this one is in the farmers market lot at the community center.
Okay.
Yeah, so right there where you normally go.
All right, a lot of information passed along today, and you can find most of that on the city's website. Heidi, thanks so much again for the
You're
time.
welcome.
Let's leave you with some contact information to the city. You'll see that website address. Again, a lot of information to be found there, especially during this election and voting season as well. Next council meeting date is Monday, August 17th, 7:30 at the Government Center. Government Center's phone number at the bottom of the screen, and our viewer response line 533-1710 if you have questions or comments about the program. For Heidi Nelson, I'm Dave Kaiser. Thanks for joining us once again.